Here we are, another year of knitting, crochet, and whatever else I decide to try in 2025. My plans are ambitious, my yarn stash is out of control, and Oscar is already judging me. So grab your needles, hooks, and a soothing beverage, and let's dive in to my 2025 making plans. Spoiler, I'm probably overreaching. First up, the stash in my yarn bar. I really thought I was doing well with curtailing my yarn purchases this year because I bought very little yarn just because it was there or on sale or whatever. I was really, really wrong. Somehow, I ended up adding a ton of yarn last year and barely making a dent in what I already had. My main goal for 2025, get my stash under control and knit more than I buy. Revolutionary, I know. And it's time to say goodbye to those yarns to which I have a sentimental attachment. The ones that I've set aside for a great project that never seems to make it to the top of my queue. I could go on and on and on, but I won't because I've already started a 12-part series for 2025, all about stash management. Here's the link to episode 1. Check it out and be sure that you read the comments. There are some incredible stash stories down there, and I guarantee they will make you feel better about the state of your very own yarn collection. Honestly, Oscar, you're getting to be a broken record. The next thing I want to look after is prioritizing my projects. 2025 is going to be the year of finishing more projects than I start and making an actual plan for my new projects. We'll start out talking about my whips, and then we're going to look at my mile-long queue. For my current whips, works in progress, I'm not in the worst shape I've ever been. I have 8 that I'll admit to, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to find a few more during the whole stash organization business. But I do want to get a few more finished before I cast on anything shiny and new. I'm practically having to sit on my hands to do that, but of course, sitting on my hands is not conducive to finishing any whips. So I will figuratively sit on my hands. I do have a few whips, like my mosaic carpet cushion, that I am currently actively working on. So I feel like I've got the whole whip thing a bit under control. However, as for my queue, number 1 in my queue to be next up on my needles is the Cozy Cubes jacket, which I discussed in a video back in May and fully expected to have not only started but finished by now. This is my favorite jacket. I want to make myself a knitted version of this jacket. So I found this one called Cozy Cubes. At the beginning of the video, I said, can I knit this jacket? And it looks like I can. I've got the pattern, I've got the yarn, my swatch turned out, I've got a martini. What could go wrong? I have already studied up the pattern, made notes, done a swatch, figured out my gauge. Everything is good to go. But I am not casting this on until I finish at least one of my current whips. And after I've got Cozy Cubes on the go, I am super ready to dive into this Novio cardigan by Carol Feller. I will be knitting this for Mr. Handsome, who is my guy, my human, my person, and Oscar's other human. He is a lovely, lovely man, and he deserves a lovely, lovely cardigan. And I can no longer stand looking at the 100-year-old acrylic thing that is his current go-to hanging on his office chair. This is the swatch, and yes, that's brioche. And this is the yarn. Knitting for all of pure silk and blue sky, fine Highland wool. Don't they look fantastic together? That's the color of Mr. Handsome's eyes. And the bonus for both those projects is I already have the yarn in my stash, so no buying required. As for the remaining 45 projects in my queue, I need to do some serious and realistic prioritizing and purging. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that a good half of them could come off that list and just be moved into favorites for future reference. And also in this category are the projects like the Cozy Cube jacket, to which I have committed in various videos, such as knitting a mini Oscar out of my precious ball of vicuña yarn, which was in my luxury yarns video, or making myself a knitter's dude cardigan, which is the iconic sweater worn by the dude in the movie The Big Lebowski. That video was called As Seen on TV from back in the summer. And of course, there are all those amazing patterns that I've gushed over in the Wallet Worthy pattern video series. I've actually been pretty successful in getting at least a handful of those knit or started in the last 6 months or so. That's a lot of knitting. Good thing it's my favorite. I like you as a friend, but knitting is my first love. Sorry. Let's talk about crochet. Crochet and I have a complicated relationship. Here's a quick rundown of my crochet accomplishments to date. So you can see that I dabble, but I have huge aspirations to include more crochet in my making lifestyle. This is as far as I've got with a crocheted bandana cowl called Sea Smoke by Vincent Williams. It's crochet with cables in it. I was so excited about starting this project and finding out how it was possible to incorporate what looked like knitted cables into your crochet. That was a year ago. Now I have to go start all over again to remember how to do it. So 2025 is the year I am committing to improving my crochet skills. I'm going to invest time in actually learning how to crochet properly instead of pretending I know what I'm doing, which has been my MO to date. I might even do a full-on crochet sweater. Oscar, how would you feel about a crochet sweater? Yeah, that's what I thought. I also have this gorgeous set of Tunisian crochet hooks, and I have not used them even once. If you're a crocheter and you have a favorite video tutorial about Tunisian crochet, could you please share it in the comments? I need to know who to go to for some really good instruction on how to use these babies. So pretty, right? And I have this super fun kit that I got for Christmas at least a year ago, maybe two, to crochet characters from The Office. Okay, The Office might not be your favorite, but I happen to love that show. And I want to make every single one of these fun people. And if that wasn't enough, in the summer at Knit City, Calgary, I bought a kit to crochet this unbelievably cute felted sheep. Look at these yarns. Pretty much straight off the sheep from a farm here in British Columbia. This is too awesome to let it go to waste. Help me, crocheters. Who do I go to for instruction? I'm thinking Tony Lipsy, but you might have some other suggestions too. Now, that's a good segue into my collection of small knitting kits. Small bunny, small turtle, hat with chickens on it, crocheted succulents, more crochet, small dragons. Yes, this yarn dragon has a kit to make small dragons made of yarn. Tiny mice. See this? This is a gnome. Gnomes are a thing right now. Did you know that? And why wouldn't they be? Look at how cute that is. Miniature, adorable, and the perfect project for using up scraps. Who, including me, wouldn't want a tiny little village of gnomes invading their shelves? I really, really did, because sometime in 2003, I signed up for a Gnome of the Month Club thing with Jimmy Beans. I got 6 kits. I made one. This one. The rest have been waiting patiently for me to get at them. There are 3 more gnomes, a mushroom, and a house. I'm thinking maybe I could commit to doing 1 kit per month until they're all done. What do you think? What do you think? I was asking him, Oscar, not you. Now, it's true that my stash is out of control, and I'm coming to realize that my needle collection is also seriously out of control. In my quest for the perfect knitting needle, I have tried almost everything. This was my first interchangeable set, Knit Picks. Then Addies. Then I discovered Knitter's Pride, which is now Knit Pro. Carbons. Cubics. I got 2 sets of those because I like them so much. Then I decided sometimes I need wooden cubics for those slippery yarns. And before that, I had all of these fixed circulars. They're pretty tidy in here. Haven't touched them in years. A schmozzle of DPNs. And this disaster. And just for fun, teeny tiny DPNs for knitting teeny tiny little critters. And teeny tiny little circular needles, which I have never used. This very fancy and very expensive set of ChowGoo interchangeables that I absolutely had to have, mostly because the case was so cool. And finally, the needles that I actually use, which are my signature needles. I have duplicates of everything because you can't buy these anymore. They are precious. Thread and maple. Check them out. And my teeny tiny signatures. Now, with all those bazillion needles, do you think I can find a 3.25 millimeter needle when I want it? In the type of needle that I actually want to use? No. So 2025 is going to be about making some kind of system. Labels, proper storage cases, and maybe even taking the spreadsheet that I actually have for my signature needles and expanding it out to include the other needles that I'm going to keep. A lot of these can be rehomed. I never touch them. They're just sitting here taking up space. So, like my stash, if I get it organized, will it last? Who knows? But at least I'll start the beginning of this year knowing where my 3.5mm needles are. And one last item that I have been talking about doing forever. I am really and truly on the verge of buying a knitting machine. It's a big investment, but imagine how much faster I could finish projects and use up more of my Yarn Dragon stash. Sweaters and wraps in hours instead of weeks. Sign me up. I know what you might be thinking because I've thought it too. Knitting machines are cheating. It's not real knitting. But here's the thing that turned my thinking around on that. Would you consider using a sewing machine cheating? Those clothes that a sewist makes themselves are still handmade, aren't they? Would you call them a cheater just because they didn't hand sew every seam? I don't know. Maybe you would. But that's way too purist for me. So I figure if using a sewing machine isn't cheating, then using a knitting machine isn't cheating either. Oscar, what do you think? Yeah, fair enough. I actually got to try one out at XOXO Fiber back in September, and I was pretty quickly convinced that it was a good thing, like a really good thing, like a really cool thing. Okay, when I finally pull the trigger on this, which is coming up soon, I guarantee there will be a video of the whole experience. So that's the plan for 2025. Tackle the stash, finish up projects, make project plans, level up my crochet skills, make gnomes, organize my needles, and buy and learn how to use a knitting machine. Will it all happen? Probably not. But I'm aiming for progress, not perfection. That's debatable, but thanks for sharing, Oscar. What are your making goals for 2025? Let us all know down in the comments, and let's keep each other accountable, or at least entertained. Until next time, keep those signature needles clicking. And if you're curious about how I use Ravelry favorites, bundles, and the queue function to plan and organize my projects, here's a link to my Ravelry tutorial series. I say goodbye. Oscar says goodbye. And as always, we look forward to seeing you again really soon. Bye. Wish me luck.